What's up, y'all? We are back again, and I'm doing something completely new on this channel, and I'm doing something more NFL broad so we can reach a bigger audience, but I think it will still apply to all you local Hawks fans that I specifically attend to normally. But I'm trying to branch out and reach a wider community. So if you guys are fans of whatever team, man, I hope you dial in and check out what I'm doing here. And I'm just trying to talk some ball and have some fun out here, man. So what we're going to do today is we are actually doing an NFL team-wide tier list. So as you see, we have S tier, A tier, B, C, and D tier for the scum of the earth type teams. So if you aren't familiar, S is the best, D is the worst. Pretty simple. And so we're doing a tier list and we're going to rank all teams. And we're just going to go in the random order that it's assorted here. And I'm going to talk about each team a little bit, not too crazy, try to make it somewhat quick, but get to talk a little bit about the teams that, you know, I think are going to be good, bad, or whatever. And this is heading into the year as of right now. Obviously, we haven't had the draft yet, and that's going to change some things. But I think we have a decent idea of what rosters can be somewhat competitive. And I can talk about whether I think they have a chance to move up in the draft or if I think they're really kind of locked into where their spot is and what flexibility they have. So let's get started right away. Right now, we got the Titans. And honestly, I think Mike Vrabel is a good coach. I think their issues are getting kind of blown up a little more than they should be. I don't think they're going to be a good team. I think they're going to be a lower half team, which is why I'm putting them in C tier for right now. But I do think that honestly, I think they need better weapons. If Treylon Burks ends up being a better wide receiver than I think he's going to be, I think he's going to be okay. But if he ends up actually filling into being like 80% of what AJ Brown was for them, I think they have a lot better option potential to be better. I think their ceiling this year to me would be a B tier team, which is what I consider like the playoff range, like low end playoff team. I just think they're getting older. King Henry's like they're 29, I think 28 maybe. He's getting older and he has a ton of usage obviously because their offense runs through him. They don't have good receivers really. Again, Treylon Burks is their number one, and you just don't. He's not enough. You need more weapons there. You need to do more with that offense to change things up. So that's what I'm going to say about them first. They got the 11th overall draft pick. I don't know too much else about their capital, but I think they could definitely make the team better in the draft, but I don't think it really will improve it enough to go into B tier unless some crazy things happen. But never know what's going to happen. And maybe they go receiver, maybe they make that offense a little more explosive. Maybe they get like a tackle because honestly, they lost Taylor Lewan and they need some stuff, but there's a ton of holes to fill. We'll see what happens. But next, the Dolphins. The Dolphins, man, to me, it's all about Tua's health. To me, they're between A and B. They're a high B or low A. I'm gonna start out putting them in A, and we'll see what happens. I might move them down if I load up a lot of teams here, but I just don't expect them to. I don't expect them to be like S, which I write as pure Super Bowl contender. That's what S is. I think they're a between wild card and divisional round kind of contender team, especially in the AFC. It's just AFC is so loaded. I think in the NFC they could definitely make a push a little harder, but they're obviously an AFC team, so their fate's kind of limited there. It's about the health of Tua. They have a great team, good roster. They lost their first round pick, which is going to hurt a lot because obviously you can add a good asset there in the early 20s, but they lost that, but they still have an opportunity in the draft to fill some holes and make the team a little better. I think their defense needs some work. The offense I love. Um, yeah, man. I think if they added a different, maybe a higher end running back to that rotation too, that could be interesting to see what they do there. But I also know their scheme doesn't need great running backs to be successful. Obviously, with Mike McDaniels as the coach, but I think it'll be interesting to see what they do this year, man. Browns, I'm gonna go. They had like 6, 7 wins last year, and that was with Deshaun Watson playing absolute garbage. They underperformed that roster. I'm gonna have them they're probably gonna be a low end B tier. I think they have a potential to make the playoffs. If Deshaun Watson plays good, they have a lot more. They could be in this A tier if they really perform to their roster's talent level. I just don't see it yet. I think Deshaun Watson's got a lot more rust on him. I think they got decent weapons on offense between Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Their offensive line is pretty solid, decent. I'd say it's kind of middle of the pack. They got some good players though. I'd say like it's probably between top 10 to top 15 line for sure. Their defense, they got some guys out there. I think they can fill some more holes on defensive side specifically. I don't think they have great linebackers. They're okay. I don't think they have an insane interior D line from my recollection, but I think they could fill holes there. They got great pass rush, obviously led by Myles Garrett. So I think it all depends on Deshaun Watson really to put it together and make them a playoff team. But I think that's what their potential is as a low end playoff team. Jaguars, I'm actually going to put them in A. I think they'll be a low end A tier team going into this year. Maybe if I go through, they're similar to the Dolphins, except for I think I like their potential a little more. So I'm actually going to rate them higher than the Dolphins for now. And that's more because I have more faith in Trevor Lawrence over the course of a full season than Tua. And, maybe I don't know. I think he has more potential, he's clearly more talented as far as physical traits. Tua's a very effective passer. I think he's a good player, but I think their rosters are very similar overall, except for I think Jaguars are led by a better quarterback. That's my opinion. I'd take Trevor Lawrence over Tua every day of the week. And I think he's going to have a great season. So I'd put them ahead of them. I think they're definitely competing again for like that divisional round berth. And, you know, maybe if they do well in the draft, they could make a push to become more. But I think they're firmly a like low mid end A tier team. Lions, same situation. I'm gonna have the Lions split these two teams. I think they're in the same boat. Actually, no, the Lions roster is more well rounded than the Jags in my opinion. But the Jags have a better quarterback, so it's a similar argument. But the Lions are clearly a better roster in my opinion than the Dolphins. But the Dolphins and Lions quarterback situation is similar to me as far as Goff and Tua, what they can bring to a team. But I think the Lions roster is way more well-rounded, and they have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and more picks obviously going down the back end to fill. They don't really have holes, but they can just get stronger strengths. So I love to see that. Vikings, man, I think they're a B-tier team. Every year, I think they're just perfectly steady. I mean, I don't expect too much fluctuation there. I think them between the Browns and them, I'm going to go with them because Kirk's been so consistent throughout his career. I think they have a decent weapon, receiving core and good running backs, okay offensive line. They're just mid. Their defense was so atrocious last year. So if they can't address that in some way in the first round or first few rounds to get some players in positions to make an improvement there, I think they'll be in a similar situation where they were last year. But I think they can be a strong B team, if that makes sense. Buccaneers, they're dookie. I think this is one of the teams contending for that first overall pick next year. The roster really isn't horrible, but I just think unless something crazy happens at the quarterback position, I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to be a great fix. I see them being a 3-4 win team next year. As things stand, the post Tom Brady era is going to be a lot different, but I do think they have potential to maybe rebound quickly after this year if they get a guy like Caleb Williams or Drake May and keep adding pieces. They still got a good, okay, decent, solid defense. They have good weapons on offense. So if Baker can cook a little, they can definitely move up into a C tier team probably, but I don't see them making playoffs. So for now, I'm gonna put them D. Maybe if I run through this and I see that there's a few teams that are definitely worse or something, which I don't necessarily think I will, then I'd move them up to C. But I think for now, D's kind of spot. San Francisco, S. I don't know what else to say. Great defense, great offense. The quarterback situation is interesting. Recently, I heard that they're actually doing a 3-way competition, and Sam Darnold is involved in that. I think that's mostly due to the injuries that other quarterbacks have dealt with this last year. I think it'll end up being Purdy at the end of the day if he's healthy, followed by Trey Lance and then Darnold. But maybe they'll shop Trey Lance and see something interesting there. I don't know. I think they're carrying 3 quarterbacks, and that might just be simply due to the fact they don't want to deal with what they did last year and have all the quarterbacks die. So I don't know. They're an S tier team. They have a Super Bowl contending roster. They're a great team, great in every regard. They don't really have holes. They have spots they can get better at, but that's it. So we'll see what happens, man. I think they can only get better, and I love what they got going on there. Yeah, pains me as a Seahawks fan, but they are a great roster. Falcons, I think similarly. I think they're the Bucs. They're going to be a rough low situation there. Desmond Ridder, we don't know anything about yet. He didn't specifically do the worst ever last year when he was playing, but he isn't lined up the stat sheet. We'll see what he can do as a second-year player. He's not uber talented. He's just very okay. Like I think his ceiling would be a guy like a budget Jared Goff kind of guy, but I don't know. And I think I say that's not a disrespectful thing. Jared Goff I view as a very solid quarterback. Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins aren't similar to it's like Kirk Cousins, and then Jared Goff is like the budget Kirk Cousins, and then Uh, yeah, Desmond Ridder, if he performs better, can be a budget Jared Goff. But I think he's got something there. They got okay weapons, but they haven't seemed to use them that well. They got a okay roster, just not great. I just don't see too much. I think the bottom end of the league is a lot more competitive with one another. I think there's more teams that are all mid or like just low end kind of teams than there were previous years. So it's like there's less clearly one team that's just terrible. I think it's tightening up the competition a little bit, and I think that's good for the league. But I think it makes it harder to tier teams off. But Ravens, they're hard to do because of Lamar. If they had Lamar, I'd probably put them A or B. Without Lamar, I'd go C. I don't know what to do with it yet. They haven't come close on a deal, but I do think at the end of the day, Lamar will play. But I'm not going to put him A like I would if it was a first, like for sure thing, and I knew they could just build around him with other picks. I'd probably put him as a low end A team, but I'm gonna put him B simply due to the fact that there's so much uncertainty. I think it's not great for a locker room to have that much uncertainty. Um, they have a good, decent roster. They just have horrible weapons. They continuously fail to give Lamar Jackson the weapons he deserves. The run game's good, clearly. Solid offensive line. Defense is good. I think they could be something good. They're a playoff team if Lamar's there for sure. But you got to figure that out. Either pay the man or get rid of him and invest in your future now. Yeah, I think if they go into the year without another quarterback and they end up starting like Tyler Huntley because Lamar doesn't want to play or he's traded or whatever happens, I think they drop the C. But we'll just have to see what happens there, guys. But overall, very interesting to see what happens there. Chicago is such an interesting team to me, man, because they were definitely a D tier team last year. C is where the conversation starts this year because they are on a rebuild. I think they have a lot of work to do still, but I'm thinking possibly a low end B tier team where I'd put them ahead of Baltimore here. I think they're kind of be going to be reminiscent of the first year that Jalen Hurts started for the Eagles, where they had a lot of good players around him. They were able to do some good things on offense and they had a good defense and they won like 9 games and made it to the playoffs. I think that's the ceiling for the Bears here is if they can become a contending for a playoff team, a playoff berth, then that'd be great for them. And that's what this tier is all about. I think the Bears are right in that fight. I believe in Justin Fields. I think he's a good player. They got DJ Moore. They got even more draft picks. They got great assets, and I think they can do a lot moving forward to shore up either the offensive line, get another weapon in there even. I think they got a decent receiving core, though, for sure already. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there, guys. But I'm excited to watch the Bears this year, that's for sure. And that's the first time you can say that in a while. Bengals, S tier, boom. Now, the S tier teams, I'm not going to really specifically order too much. Maybe at the end, I'll say what I think roughly. But Bengals are a great team. They're in the AFC Championship last year. They're going to be contending for the next few years. Them and the Chiefs are the rivals there. The Bills are right there too. But that's what I'm thinking, man. I think it's going to be intense. I hope that the Bengals can maybe take the next step and win a ring this next year or so. But I think they're a fun team to watch. They're very well rounded on offense and defense, and we'll just see. They can only get better through the draft. So I like where they're at. They're a contender, easy. Cowboys, they're an A tier team. I mean, they are. They're definitely an A tier team. I'm going to put them, ranking wise, I'd probably put them right in between the Dolphins, Jags range. I mean, maybe you could put them both the Jags too. I think it's all going to be a mosh pit here as well. But they're a good team. They've made some good additions in free agency. Getting Brandon Cooks to that receiving core, I think, is an underrated move. Great move. They needed a second or third guy, however you view Michael Gallup. I think Brandon Cooks is better, but that's a good trio there. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Michael Gallup. And then we'll see what they do at tight end since they let Schultz go. But I think it'll be very interesting to watch this team this year, man. They also got Stephon Gilmore. Clearly, great move there. That's been talked about a lot. Their defense is already good, so we'll see what happens, man. Texans, I'm gonna go. I don't think they're bottom of the barrel this year again because I think they're going to get a better quarterback through the draft, and I think they have the 12th pick as well, and so they can do more things to build that roster up. I think they've made decent moves, and I really like their coaching hire. I think that they're going to be right there as far as just a low end kind of mid team this year, taking a huge step forward though from being absolute dog wire second overall pick level. I think, if they can be a C level team, just scrapping together maybe 7 wins this year, that's a huge step forward. And so I'd love to see them get between like 6 and 8 wins. That'd be a great step forward. So you just got to see that. But they'll have a young quarterback. They'll have some young players around that team overall. I think that'll be fun to watch for any fan base. So yeah, it's exciting times for the Texans to finally try to rebuild after the Deshaun Watson era. Colts, I'm gonna say the same thing. Except for I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be. Obviously, I think it'll be a rookie, just like I do for the Texans. But they also got Gardner Minshew, so maybe they'll have a rookie sit behind him for a year. I don't know. I'd imagine they'd have a rookie starting, but I think the issue is that they're at the fourth pick, so the first couple guys, the first two quarterbacks for certain are gone. So they're either getting like an Anthony Richardson or Will Levis is what it looks like for now. Most likely Will Levis if Anthony Richardson, someone trades up to 3 and gets him, but you just don't know. But I think either way, those guys are raw prospects. And I think the first year isn't going to be the year that investment pays off on either of those guys. I think that's a pick you make for 24, 25 seasons. And that's when you start to really put a roster together. But I think they got a good roster. I think if things really like their ceiling, I think is a low end playoff team. But I think where they'd sit, and I predict them to be is right here in this C tier. We'll just have to see what happens though. Rams, I don't know what to say with them. I'm going to go B because I think that last year was a weird, fluky season, man. Obviously, Matthew Stafford getting injured kind of derailed the whole thing, and he played bad when he was there too. Cooper Kupp got injured. So many issues happened, but I think they got a decent roster still. I don't think they're going to be near a contending team. I could almost see them being a C team, but I just think their core group of guys, I think Matthew Stafford's going to rebound better. I think Cooper Kupp's a great weapon. They got Van Jefferson as well in there, and Allen Robinson for now I think is still there. They got a good core team, man. It's interesting to see what happens, but I think that they'll be contending for a wild card spot potentially. Chargers, I'm gonna go B, man. I'm gonna put them above all these teams. Yeah, I'll put them above all these teams for now. This is an exact ranking. I know I'm ordering and not ordering some, but this is kind of a mosh pit. I just do think they are a good B tier team, so I want to put them towards the front. I mean, they competed to the death with the Jags. I don't think I can put them into the A tier team because they just have failed repeatedly to make that next step to win a playoff game. I think if they get a good receiver in the first round, I could almost immediately put them here as a low end A team, but I just don't see it yet, man. I need them to make a step and show me something different. I would have put them as an A tier team going into last year, probably. I think Justin Herbert's a great quarterback. They need to do something to give him a weapon that can push vertically. They're challenging them too much to stay underneath, and they don't have guys that can go deep that often. Obviously, Mike Williams can make great contested catches, but he's not a speedster. He can't burn and make those kind of explosive plays that way. There's so much that needs to happen there. The defense needs some work at corner. J.C. Jackson didn't work out great. Khalil Mack's getting older. Joey Bosa's I feel like he's underperformed a little bit the contract that he's given. He's still a great player, but not quite to the level you want to see. All that to be said, I think they're a good, strong wildcard team at minimum, and I think maybe they can push this next level. But they're right there at the brink between these two levels to me. KC, they're the champ. I'm putting them at the front of S tier. They're the team to beat. That's all it is. Period. Not going to say anything else. Everyone knows Patrick Mahomes is the team. They're great, phenomenal. Would like to see them add another receiver to that room or something, figure something out there to continue improving maybe. But, they can continue to build that line on offense and defense. I mean, they got a good group. Maybe get another pass rusher to fill where Frank Clark was, but they got a great team. Saints, I'm going C tier. I think Derek Carr's okay quarterback. I don't think they're getting too much of an improvement there over Andy Dalton. He is clearly better than Andy Dalton, to clarify though. Clearly better than Andy Dalton. He's talented with the upside to be a top 15 quarterback probably, but I just think the gap isn't that much. They're not doing anything that changes the fate of their team. They got an okay roster. They got good weapons. That's the one thing I'll give them. They have good weapons. But I just don't see them being anything special. I don't see them making the playoffs. And as you can see, all three of these teams, the Bucs, Saints, and Falcons, are C or lower in that division. So that's a tough thing to say for that little group there. But it's gonna help out. It's gonna help out other guys, I guess. Make the NFC a little more clear. All right, next we're going to the Giants. The Giants, to me, are another one of these upper tier B teams. I think last year making the divisional round seems kind of fluky. They have the ability to step forward if Daniel Jones performs to what the contract is. I think that's a bad contract, but I mean, had his best season as a pro. I'm not going to knock him overall. He's got some talent. He's a great runner of the football. can do things in that offense, but that offense runs through Saquon, and everyone knows that. Um, See if he can do something different. He's got an okay receiving core, just a really balanced receiving core. No like elite targets, but they just got really decent targets everywhere. To trade for Darren Waller helps, and so Daniel Jones take a step forward. Maybe they can fight to be in this A tier conversation. I just don't think they're quite there yet, but I think they're a good, strong B tier team at minimum. But yeah, that's what I think. They're Eagles contenders. Boom. That's the four there that I think are the top of the top, and so absolutely great team. Don't need to say much else. They're young and talented, and they have draft picks. Crazy. Steelers, I think they're a C tier team this year. They're in that same mix there. I don't think they quite make the playoffs, but I think they're a good C tier team. So I'm going to put them at the front of that because I do think you can make an argument for B. It's all based on what you think of Kenny Pickett. He showed some good things down the stretch, a couple game-winning drives that you saw, and you love to see that from a young quarterback. They just need to improve their weapons for him as well. Got a couple good wide receivers in George Pickens and Deontay Johnson, but I think they could use a third guy that's an upgrade there to make that a little more balanced receiving core. I like their tight end, man. Good, solid-ish offensive line. I don't know too much about their line. I just think it's kind of lower middle of the pack, like not a good one. Definitely not top half of the league, but I think it's survivable. I think they could do more there. You'll have to see. Their defense is great. Everyone loves their defense. I think they could use even more help at corner, and I think that's hopefully what they'd be able to get in the first round, but you never know. That's all I got to say about them, really. Broncos, I'm putting them in B tier. I think that they're right in this pack, man. They're similar to the Browns, in my opinion, honestly, where I think that it's all based on Russell Wilson, but I have more faith in Russell Wilson to perform than Deshaun Watson, if I'm being honest. And I think they have a better overall roster. I could easily see the Broncos performing at a high end B level. I think they're a low end playoff team this year. I think they make the step forward with Sean Payton. I'll just have to see though, man. Packers. It's not that I don't have any faith in Jordan Love. It's just I don't like their overall receiving core. I mean, Christian Watson's got a good future. Romeo Dobbs or Dubs, however you say it, he's a good player as well. They got good role players. They just need more. They're investing in this quarterback. Jordan Love, you got to see what happens there. You just can't predict what's going to happen. I don't see them as a playoff team this year, but I think they could, be a high-end C tier team, 6 to 8 wins. I think that's a good start for them at least, if their guy there really steps up in Jordan Love, then maybe they can make a low-end playoff push, but I just don't see too much there. Panthers, a lot of people I think see them as a D-tier team, especially after the trade to go to number 1, but I actually see them as a low-end C-tier team for now, I think. I think that once they get like a CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, they can do something there, and maybe if they can get a wide receiver later, I think they're a low-end C-tier team. And maybe I'll get to the end of this list and crush them down a little, put them at D as like a top tier D team, top of the D tier. Sorry, but I just think for now they're a C. I don't see anything special in them, if I'm being honest. But I don't think they're the worst in the league. I think that they'll have something moving forward. They got a good defense that's really young, and so if they can make a functional offense, I think they'll be in the 6 to 8 win window. 6 to 8 win window, which is what I consider the C tiers in that kind of low end range there. Raiders, I mean, they're right here in C as well, man. The B and C, as it should be, is the thickest group of teams here, but you just don't know, man. They signed Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe they're looking to draft a quarterback as well, but I just think they're mid. I don't see them making the playoffs, but I don't see them being much worse than last year, and they were like pushing that envelope, so that's why I have them as a high-end C-tier team. But I don't see them doing anything crazy or special. I just think they're kind of mid. They'll float around, push, be in contention for a winning season by the end of the year, but not quite make it, is my opinion. I think 7 to 8 wins seems right for them, but that's what I'm thinking. Of course, this is the Commanders. Sorry, it's not the updated logo. They're a hard team for me, man. They got a good young defense. They were in contention for the playoffs last year. They're starting Sam Howell. I don't see much happening there. I don't think he's going to be the franchise guy, but I don't think he'll be horrible. So I don't know. It's hard for me to put them anywhere. They're in this C or D tier to me. I think I'll put them C because I think their team around Sam Howell will be good enough to compete for a winning season. But I don't super believe in them to make the playoffs. in any way. But I think they'll be in the 6 to 8 win window, which is what I'm looking for here. Just I don't know. They could definitely be D tier though by the end of the year. But yeah, that's what I think of them. Cardinals D tier. It's mostly Kyler's going to be injured for at least half the season. Their roster is depleting. They're trying to get rid of Nuke Hopkins. They're in full rebuild mode as far as at least this year, trying to reload talent. They're rebuilding for this year. They'll get another high draft pick next year. Hopefully they can put something together so that Kyler can have a good contending team, or not the contending team, but a decent roster around him where he can compete with other teams around the league. But yeah, I don't see much else happening. I'm not going to spend too much time on the Cardinals. Bills, A tier. They're going top A tier for me. And that might ruffle some feathers because a lot of people want to see them in the S tier. They flopped so hard in the playoffs last year. They got dominated by the Bengals. It showed a clear, that's teardrop to me, was how that game looked. I have faith that they can come back strong and really maybe edge to the bottom of this group next year again. But I think they're a strong team. I think they'll be in the divisional round again, and either they'll lose there or maybe they'll win and be a contender. But I don't know. I think that the Chiefs and Bengals are both better than them, and that means that they get kicked out in the divisional round. So we'll see. I think they have a lot of talent. They're a really strong football team. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong. And Josh Allen's a great quarterback, but I don't know what else to make of them, man. I don't see it being much else than that. Seahawks. I'm a fan of the Seahawks, of course. You know, part of me is like, okay, they're the A to B tier, but I think they're an A. I think that they're going to slide here. I think they're worse than the Cowboys for this year, but I think they're definitely in that conversation. I think that the Seahawks way outperformed their roster this last year. I mean, even I, as a Hawks fan, was thinking, okay, get 5 wins and I'm happy, man. Get 6 wins and I'm happy. They made the playoffs. Clearly weren't good enough to compete with the Niners, but a lot of moves this offseason. I think they've only gotten better, and then we have the second most valuable by like the points chart of the draft. Second most valuable draft picks in the NFL. Got 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders, and some more picks going down the stretch. So I think 5 picks in the top 100. This team, I think, as you'd sit right now, is bobbling here between the B and A tier, where B is, they'd be high in B, hanging out here around the Giants and stuff. And I think that's the competition. I think that we're better than the Giants going into this season, but the Giants made it to the divisional round, but I think that's more based on matchup. I think we would have beat the Vikings too last year, but we beat the Giants in season. And that's really the competition to me. That's the buffers. The gap between the Giants and the Seahawks is the A to B. But right there, I think that's all it looks like. Jets, if they get Rodgers, and that's what I'm assuming right now, that seems like that's the only option for them. I think they're a low, mid-end A-tier team. I think they'll be better than the Dolphins, but worse than like the Jags and Bills. So I think they'll probably end up second in their division and be a strong wild card team, but I think they could definitely win a wild card matchup potentially, and that'd be really interesting to see how that shakes out. And lastly, the Patriots, I don't have faith in them, man. Just because I think Belichick isn't like a good coach. Obviously, I'm gonna put them at the very bottom of C tier, which I think seems about right for me. But I don't love their roster. I don't love their weapons. Juju is a decent signing, but I don't have faith. Their quarterback situation's murky. I think their coaching staff is kind of rough. Their play calling on offense was so abysmal last year. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. I think they'll be a C-tier team between the 6 and 8 win window, but nothing better than that. So, yeah, that's my list. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you stuck around this long, please like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys, but that's all I'm going to say today, man. So, peace.